Dr. Yasapa. Let me see if I can change the camera angle, make it look a little bit better. Hold on. Welcome to the free astrotheology course. I am Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. So welcome everybody. If you're new, our textbook for the course is The Devil's Pulpit. All right. So our textbook is The Devil's Pulpit. I guess the camera angle is okay. I'm at one of my favorite cafes to live stream. Okay. And let's pick it back up. I really, really enjoyed the last class. And I'm sure I'm going to enjoy this class just as much. So, y'all, let's pick it up, scholars, on page 309. All right, we are more than halfway down the page. Can you pour the coffee over the ice for me, please?
Yes.
Pour the coffee over the ice for me, please. Pour the coffee. No. Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, y'all. Sorry about that. They just delivered my... I'm going to tell y'all something, okay? A lot of y'all might find this disgusting. So in Southeast Asia, like in Africa, a lot of the African countries, people eat with their hands, right? They pick up the food with their hands. But by then, when I met them, they were living in Europe. And, but anyway, they ate with their hands at home, right? But here in Southeast Asia, where I'm at, people eat with their hands. And y'all, it is hard to get used to because they have a totally different idea about hygiene, especially when you go to India. India was so different. I'm not going to say it's bad. India was so different in terms of their ideas about hygiene. I got food poisoning 3 times. 3 times. So I decided to leave India. But and then, you know, when you travel in some places in Southeast Asia and they have a different standard of hygiene, like they'll just pick up food and, you know, and want to share it with you, which is a very kind gesture, right? Or drop food. I'm not saying everybody, I'm just telling you my experiences, right? People drop food and then pick it back up. And then, because like here in Vietnam, when you go into the country, into the provinces, they lay a mat, and they do this in a lot of places. They'll lay a mat on the floor and they eat. You know how we eat at the table, a big table? Everybody eat sitting on the floor. And it looks like, how in the world can they do that? But most of the people are so short. Most of the people are so short that it's easy for them to just sit on the floor and eat a whole meal. But I've done it before and I had a great time. I had a really great time. But the standard of hygiene is just different. You know, it makes you worry, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, I'm off topic, but let's get back into it. Well, that's very good. It's black coffee with honey. All right, so page. Uh-oh. Wait a minute, I hit the phone. I knocked the camera off angle. Y'all check out the ceiling. So this is a common decoration during Tet holiday. Let me show y'all the front of the camera. Sorry, I know you are not here for this, but because I like it, I'm gonna show it. This is the front, and it's quite beautiful, right? And this coffee shop, it has an upstairs. If you go upstairs, like that area there, it has a totally different look. It's more of a traditional, but this is what the coffee shop looks like. It's more of a traditional, upstairs, not here. Upstairs is more of a traditional. Well, you know what, let me show y'all. I'm not going to tour, I'm just going to show y'all what so y'all, of course, y'all can see what this looks like. The coffee shops in Vietnam are very beautiful. The coffee culture in Vietnam is absolutely amazing. It's people come to Vietnam just to experience their coffee culture. Okay. And so, of course, you can go up the steps and you can, y'all see everything. So it's quite nice here. Quite nice. Let me go back. I forgot I left my stuff. Hold on. I don't want anybody to get my stuff. Like they say in Philippines, borrow. Borrow means steal. Took me a long time to figure that out. Borrow means steal. Okay? That means they ain't giving it back. All right, y'all? Okay. So let's pick it back up. Yeah, it's quite nice here. Quite nice. But there are much better. Much better than this. Anyway, page 309 toward the bottom, horsemen. Horsemen, as we call them to this day, men delighting in the lineage. I went over this last. I'm not going to read the paragraph. I went over it already. But the light of science breaks in here. We're at the bottom of page 309. Upon the faintly delineated Phillip of the gospel. Why faintly delineated? Well, because there's only two things. Phillip was an evangelist, and he had 4 daughters, which did prophesy. The horseman, like the God-man of the Christian fable, rides back again into his original sight in the starry heavens. So horseman, God horse, of course, Sagittarius. We're talking about the motions of Sagittarius. Okay? So he rides back. Phillip, who is really Sagittarius, in other words, there never was a apostle written in the New Testament named Saint Phillip, who ever lived or breathed the breath of air or walked or took 2 steps on planet Earth or even took 1 step on planet Earth. It's a fairy tale. Phillip is Sagittarius, the constellation Sagittarius, the zodiac sign Sagittarius. Okay, guys? This is the author's point. So Phillip, the horseman-like God-man of the Christian fable, rides back again into his original sight in the starry heavens. And the holy apostle Saint Phillip, of an idiotically believed fable, is the Sagittarius of the astronomical science. Okay? That's the author's point. Of the holy apostle Saint Phillip, the holy fable, that is to say, the holy gospel expressly states, quote unquote, now Philip was of Bethsaida. The city of Andrew and Peter. Now, scholars, you should have an inkling that Bethsaida is going to be also astronomy. Why? Because Philip is Sagittarius, and Philip was of Bethsaida. Okay, let's go over to page 310. And this coffee was good. I'm going to have to get one more. Hold on, y'all. That is quite delicious. Quite delicious. My goodness. I got to move this pillow. It's too uncomfortable. Okay, page 310. Let's pick it up. We have already settled our reckoning with Andrew and Peter, James, John, Thomas, and Judas. Yeah, we studied them already. We know their astrological solutions. We have already ascertained and demonstrated, even with the accuracy of mathematical demonstration. How was it done? Through etymology and philology, through astronomy and astrology, through history, both secular and mythological. We'll also throw in there grammar rules too, right? Also grammar rules. We went over that. The precise astronomical positions of St. Peter. That's right, we did that. The keeper of heavens, the keeper of heaven gate. At the gate going into the heavenly city. That would be, if my memory serves me correctly, the spring or vernal equinox. And his brother Andrew, the keeper of the gate, at the going out of that city. So that would be the autumn or fall equinox. What other then could the city of Peter and Andrew be than the city which lay between the stations of Peter and Andrew? That is, as every city must lie between the gate that leads into it and the gate that leads out of it. In other words, the border. Okay, you enter in and you exit out. So the city has to be between the entrance and the exit. Or, stated in modern day terms, the city has to be inside of its borders. Otherwise, there's no borders, right? Clear? Okay, now let's continue. The city of Andrew and Peter was also the city of Philip. So the city of Philip is also the city of Andrew and Peter, and also called Bethsaida. Now, y'all, why are there so many different names for the same city? That's a good question, right? Why? Why not just one name? Why not make it simple? Why not make it simple? Like we say, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? You have to think about this. You have to think about it. Why so many names? But what light reflects the meaning of the word Bethsaida? Well, that's also a good question. As constituting an exegesis or further definition of the city of Andrew and Peter. Or, if Philip were a man at all, what the better or worse man should Philip be for being of Bethsaida? That's right. Why even mention that Philip is from Bethsaida? Is there something good about it? What is it about Bethsaida? Or of what consequence could it be that we should know that Philip was of Bethsaida? Why should we know that Philip was of Bethsaida? that it should be worthy of divine revelation. Why put that in the Bible? What's its purpose? Divinely to reveal and to inspire a particular parenthesis, stopping the general tenor of business of divine revelation, to give us, as it were, a rap on our knuckles. Or maybe I think like this. Y'all remember in Catholic school, they say the Catholic nuns, if you don't do what they tell you to do, the punishment, they hit you with the stick or ruler across your hand. A sort of mind ye, sirs, now what you're about. Remember, Phillip was of Bethsaida. So now we're going to get into it, okay? Now we're going to get into it. Okay, we're going to get into the etymology. We're going to get into the real nitty-gritty, the stuff I like. Well, of what then? In 2 paragraphs. Well, actually, after this one paragraph, the second goes into it, okay? Well, what of it? Well, what of that, rather? Well, these people are talking so loud behind me. Hold on. All right. Well, what of that? There is so much of that as amounts to another, added to 100,000 concurrent demonstrations, that in every text, in every parenthesis, in every phrase of your Gospels, there is proof inherent that they are not true. You Hebrew Israelites, you Christians. I mean, throw in there Muslims too. And never were intended to pass for truth. Wait a minute. The author here says, now remember, we're talking about where is Philip from? Well, Philip is of Bethsaida. Now, why is it that the author on this topic brings up that the Gospels are a fairy tale? And as he says here, there is so much of that as amounts to another, added to 100,000 concurrent demonstrations, that in every text, in every parenthesis, open and close parentheses, in every phrase of your gospel, parentheses, etymology, orthography, there is proof inherent. That means the proof is in the writing. The proof is in the writing. Okay? The way the words, the morphology of the words, the sentence structure, the structure of the paragraphs, the verses, right? I think I said the grammar rules, the pronunciation of the words, okay, how they sound, how they are spoken. So there is proof inherent. Also in what else? Also in the stories. Also in the stories, so that puts you in history. Also astrology. Y'all see it? So that takes us back to our 3 gospel busters. There is proof inherent that they are not true, that the Gospels are not true, and never were intended to pass for truth. So what the heck happened? You mean to tell me that when the Coptic Egyptians initially wrote the Gospels, they were not intended to be historical documents? That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. All right, what the the author says that our ancient ancestors, the Gnostics, they had the original Gospel of Philip, which had the same authority as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John's Gospels. Philip is called an apostle. And these Gnostic ancient ancestors of ours never taught, never believed that the Gospels, that the New Testament was real history. It was the Orthodox Christians who came in and made the claim that it's real history. Okay, y'all? Make the connections. Make the connections. All right? So they were never intended to pass for truth. But when they went up into Europe, when the Gospels were taken up into Europe and then translated into Latin and translated again into Greek, well, somebody decided to say, wait a minute, teach the masses that these are real, truthful, historical stories so that we can conquer them mentally and physically. Conquer them first with the military, use the Gospels to recruit soldiers. Teach them that this is real history. Use it as a recruiting tool. Use it as a tool to give people courage so that they're willing to die on the battlefield. And then once the conquest in physical war was done, they transitioned it to what? Psychological warfare. Mental bondage. Y'all got that? In any case, in other words, they took your land by warfare, okay? They took the land from the autochthonous Moors by warfare, and then they maintained their control and possession over the land through what? Mental bondage, okay, etc. Using primarily Christianity in North America. Of course, in other religions in other parts of the world where they are still conquering and still in power. All right? Okay, so now here we go, y'all. Here we go. Or for anything more than what they are. That is a veil. The Gospels are a veil thrown over astrological science. The Gospels are a veil thrown over astrological science. What is it saying? This is equivalent to saying, or the same thing as saying, that the Gospels are an encoded story. The Gospels are an encoded story that describes the sun's travel, its annual travel around the Mazzaroth, around the Zodiac, and all the details that go with that. That's what the Gospels are. It's just an encoded story. So what is the Gospel? It's an encoded story detailing the sun's track through the Mazzaroth, its annual journey through the Mazzaroth, and all the details. Period. It's a veil thrown over astronomical science, and allegory and fiction merely. Tis what it is. All right, now, next paragraph. We see the Ancient Ibaryath. Well, this is the New Testament, so I won't call it Ancient Ibaryath. Hold on. Well, it's written in biblical Hebrew, so it must be ancient Ibaryath, because it's not. Otherwise, it would be in Greek, right? Y'all see that? Bethsaida. Okay, so now we're getting into the etymology. Look at the tip of my finger. This is ancient Ibaryath written in biblical Hebrew text. Pictographs, rather. Written in biblical Hebrew pictographs. Okay? And the word is Bet-Saida. Bet is pronounced in English Bet-Saida. Y'all see that? Bet-Saida. Okay, so Bethsaida is Bethsaida literally means the house of the hunter. Wait a minute. Philip's name is derived from the Greek Philippos, which is lover of a horse, delighter of a horse. Philip is Sagittarius. Now, Philip is of Bethsaida. Bethsaida literally means house of the hunter. Well, wait a minute. In November, in Europe, people hunt for sport. Especially those people who didn't plant, right? Whatever you sow, this you shall also reap. Whatever you sow in the springtime, you will reap at the harvest. So if you don't sow in the spring, or if you don't do anything to make your harvest perform well, when the harvest comes, you're going to have little to nothing. Whatever you sow, that you shall also reap. Okay? Cultivation and harvest. So if you reap little or have nothing, in order to eat, you need to hunt in November. Right? The corn and wheat harvest is in August. The grape harvest is in September. So October, or at the end of October, or even in October, you might be getting hungry or realizing you don't have enough. So in November, you better be out hunting. Try to get you some meat stored up to carry you over the winter. But anyway, hunting is a sport for a lot of other people. So house of the hunter. Hunters ride horses, right? Hunters ride horses. That's the author's point. So imagine a man on a horse. Well, that's Sagittarius. Half man, half horse. The man on the horse. Here, then, we have the whole enucleation of, and here's the Greek word, okay? Philip of Bethsaida is identified with the lover of the horseman or half horse, and half horse, or half man and half horse, in the house or mansion of the hunter, which is the place of the Sagittarius of the Zodiac, the house or mansion or constellation, Sagittarius. In my Father's abode, there are many mansions. In space, there are many constellations, 12 which make up the Zodiac, and 36 more. 3 constellations located next to, or next door, or in the neighborhood of each zodiac sign. Each zodiac sign has 3 deacons, 3 constellations next to it. So 36, well, 3 times 12 is 36, plus the 12 zodiac signs, zodiac constellations, that's 48 constellations that our ancestors recognized. Not less and not more. So it's my opinion that since that's what our ancient ancestors recognized, that then is what we should recognize. 48, not 47, not 46, not 49, not more than 48, not less than 48, right? Why? Because we're told to follow the ancient paths. And the only way we get that is through our ancestors. We don't get it through the Greeks or the Romans. We go back to our ancient ancestors and copy what they did. Okay? So Bethsaida in Ancient Ibaryath literally means house of the hunter, constellation of the hunter. That's Sagittarius. Okay, scholars? All right, let's continue. So in the house or mansion of the hunter, which is the place of the Sagittarius of the Zodiac, and is the city of Andrew and Peter. So the constellation Sagittarius is the city of Andrew and Peter. The Phillip of the New Testament being none other than the Nimrod of the Old Testament. Y'all got that? Nimrod was a mighty hunter. Phillip is half man, half horse, and he is from the house of the hunter. So let me say it again. The Phillip of the New Testament being none other than the Nimrod of the Old. So in other words, they took Nimrod's story or the concept of Nimrod and they wrote it in to the New Testament, but they call him Phillip. Y'all see that? They just lifted Nimrod's story out of the Old Testament, changed his name, called him Phillip. Okay? Don't think historical person. Think Zodiac. Think Zodiac. Quote unquote. Cash begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. End quote. Cash begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. That is, or which means, among the constellations which fall below the equator. Wow. How about that, y'all? Nimrod became a mighty hunter in the earth. The astrological solution, or what it really means is those constellations, or let me let the author say it. Among the constellations which fall below the equator, which are called of the earth, or earthly, as distinguished from the constellations of the northern hemisphere, which are called heavenly. Wait, let me demonstrate. So this is below the celestial equator. This is above the celestial equator. This is the vernal equinox, the fall equinox. This is the summer solstice and the winter solstice. So June 21, 22, December 21, 22, March 21, 22, and I think September 21, 22, thereabout. Okay? So the kingdom of heaven are those months and zodiac signs that are dominated by what? Longer days and shorter nights. So from the vernal or spring equinox all the way to the summer solstice, all the way down to the fall or autumn equinox, we have the kingdom of heaven, the constellations above the celestial equator. This is the celestial equator, this horizontal, the pin, horizontally placed. Below the celestial equator are all those constellations, all those months below the celestial equator. This is winter, right? These are the months and zodiac signs that are occurring during winter. Well, October through winter, right? When the nights are longer and the days are shorter. Y'all see that? So below the celestial equator, these are the Earth, constellations of the Earth. This is what the author is saying. Everybody understand that? All right, so let's go back to it. All right, it reads, the Phillip of the New Testament, being none other than the Nimrod of the old, quote unquote, Cash begot Nimrod. Nimrod began to be a mighty hunter, to be a mighty one in the earth, end quote. That is, among the constellations, or which means among the constellations which fall below the equator, below the celestial equator, which are called of earth, as I just demonstrated, or earthy rather, as distinguished from the constellations of the northern hemisphere, which are called heavenly. I just demonstrated, just showed it. And as Nimrod is distinguished in the Genesis as he who, quote unquote, began to be a mighty one, so Philip, the hunter of the gospel fable, the gospel fairy tale, has the honor of being the first called to be a disciple of Christ. Philip was the first called to be a disciple of Christ. Nimrod, y'all, Nimrod is what? It reads here. And I lost my place. Wait a minute. Quote unquote, Nimrod began to be a mighty one. Y'all know Nimrod was the first. See that? Now, what is JC? What is JC? JC is a solar deity. What is the Christ? The Christ, the sun becomes Christ at the summer solstice. All right? So at the summer solstice, June 21, now the sun, all of a sudden, its name is Christ. Okay? It acquires the title of Christ, rather. Okay, now let's continue. Quote unquote. This is Nimrod, he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Nimrod was a mighty hunter before the Lord, and Philip is from the house of the hunter, Bethsaida. Wherefore it is said, we're on page 311, wherefore it is said, quote unquote, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, end quote, Genesis chapter 10, verse 9. Genesis chapter 10, verse 9. So I hope you all can see, scholars, what Nimrod has in common with Philip. They're one and the same. Constellation Sagittarius. Okay? Philip is really Nimrod. They just lifted Nimrod from the Old Testament and threw him in the New Testament as Saint Philip. But the meaning is still the same. Sagittarius, the constellation, the zodiac sign Sagittarius. And this is not the only instance where the New Testament does or uses this technique. New Testament does this technique everywhere. All right? So page 311. And here you see on the celestial globe is the gloomy genius of November. That is the ninth god birth. Let me say it again. On the celestial globe, this is a globe where you see the constellations, a globe that has the constellations, okay? Like the globe of the earth, you see the land masses, the continents. The celestial globe, you see all of the constellations. And here you see on the celestial globe the gloomy why? Because it's dark, it's damp, it's damp, humid, wet, whatever you want to call it. Snow is coming, and it's cold. And it's cold, and the nights are longer than the days. And the nights are becoming longer until it reaches its maximum at the winter solstice, December 21, 22. Okay? On that day, the winter solstice, the nights reach their maximum number of hours, and the days their minimum number of hours throughout the whole year. So therefore, it's a gloomy genius, okay, or a gloomy zodiac sign. All right, gloomy constellation of November. So that's a what? That is a compound word. November. November, that is, or which means the ninth god, Berith. The ninth god, Berith. Each of these stations of the heavens deriving its name from its ancient Sabaism, or Sabaism rather, each of these stations of the heavens deriving its name from its ancient Sabaism, or stag worship. Stag worship. Whence, in the Phoenician tongue, ancient Phoenician Hebrew, Ancient Ibaryath, ancient Phoenician Hebrew, which in the Phoenician tongue, the word Bethsaida, the house, station, temple, or constellation of the hunter. And for the whole of them generally, listen y'all, generally, Beth, B-E-T-H, Baal or Baal, B-A-A-L, Berith, B-E-R-I-T-H, the temple of the gods Berith. Wow. The temple of the gods Berith, Beth, Baal, Berith. The source is Byron's Analysis, Volume 3, page 210. Let me show y'all. This is page 311. And y'all go research this yourself, okay? So you can see this paragraph. Hold on, let me see if I can get it in the camera. Take a look at that. So y'all can pause the video after the live stream. Also, you can download the link to the free PDF. It's in the description area of this video, along with books that I have written. Y'all buy my books. Start learning Ancient Ibaryath. Links to my books are in the description area of this video. Buy them on my website, zionlawschool.org. All right. Show some support, show some love, support my work, educate yourself. Also subscribe to 101 Ancient Ibaryath, which is my streaming course. And y'all welcome to come on Saturdays too, okay? To 506 The Curses course, which is a course I teach by Zoom. So it's live, I teach it by Zoom. All right, so I'm gonna go back to the page. So y'all saw it for yourself, right? You saw it for yourself. The source again is Byron's Analysis, Volume 3, page 210. There you go, radicals. There's a source for you to go out and get. Okay? Byron's analysis. All right, y'all? So what do we have? November, October, December. Y'all got that? Oh, September. So let's start from September. September, October, November, December. How many was that, y'all? September, October, November, December. That's 4. Wait a minute. Now, this just came to my mind. We're going to let the author speak. But Phillip has what? 4 daughters, which did prophesy. But anyway, let's see what this is about. Let's see what this is about. Let me also make mention of this. Saba. The Saba Moors are our ancestors. They did not worship the stars and the planets. They were astronomers, astrologers, science, not hocus pocus, crazy stuff like you see in the newspaper and stuff like that. They were engineers, physicians, experts in law, geologists, mathematicians, physicists, so on and so forth. Okay? These are our ancient ancestors, the Saba Moors. Okay? Now, notice what it says here. It says, each of these stations of the heavens, deriving its name from its ancient Sabaism or stag worship. It was not worship, it was science. Okay? So they got what? Derived their names from the scientific work of our ancient ancestors. Whence, in the Phoenician tongue, the word Bethsaida, the house, station, temple, or constellation of the hunter. Now, in the Ancient Ibaryath, it's Bethsaida, literally house of the hunter. So it's the same. Why? It's the same language. That's why. It's the same language. Let me repeat that. It is the same language. Okay? All right. So we see temple, the house. The word Bethsaida is a house, constellation, station, constellation, temple, constellation, or constellation. All the same. Of the hunter. And the whole of them, generally, Beth, Baal, Berith, together called what? The temple of the gods, Berith. Clear? As you read in Judges chapter 8, verse 33, quote unquote, and it came to pass, as soon as Gideon was dead, that the children of Israel turned again and went a-whoring after Balaam, and made Baal Berith their god. End quote. And then they have the sentence in biblical Hebrew pictographs, which is all made up, but that's another story. Okay, the biblical Hebrew pictographs are all made up. Am I? Hold on, y'all. Can I have ice? So let's continue, y'all. I really enjoyed this. Let me check the time. All right, I'm good. I really enjoyed this. I hope y'all enjoy it. Okay, God forgive God forbid that we should find any fault with the language of divine inspiration. That's right. You might not like the facts that have been presented to you, scholars. You might not like them. May cause you to feel some kind of way, undergo cognitive dissonance, whatever. But these are the words written in the language that you believe is divine inspiration. Now, how are you going to argue with that? This is what the author means. God forbid that we should find any fault with the language of divine inspiration. Only on our carnal way of thought. We grown up folks, we 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 30-year-old children, babes in Christ, cannot help thinking that the Israelites, Isis, Ra, and El, must have been a very forward race. Ain't no such thing as race. That is a social political construct. That is a way to classify people. It has absolutely nothing to do with nationality. When the children of Isis, Ra, and El of Israel went a-whoring, tramps. I remember when I was in high school, there was this girl, one of my classmates, Leah Miles. I'll never forget Leah Miles. Leah Miles used to like this comedian. What was that? Who's that hybrid comedian? What was her name? She used to always talk about tramps. Y'all, what was her name? She had this whole bit that she would do on calling women tramps. She was hybrid. She had blonde hair. Was it Joan? It'll come to me. But when I read this, it made me think of Leah Miles and how much she used to like that comedian. Whores and tramps. The name of the gods, Berith, and the singular number is Ber. Y'all got that? Berith is plural. The name of the gods in plural. The singular form is Ber, B-E-R. Is still retained, listen y'all, the name of the gods, Berith, and the singular number, Ber, is still retained in conjunction with the Latin words septem, octo, novem, decem, and our September, October, October, November, November, December, December. So when you speak those months, you are invoking the Berith gods. Aren't we told not to even let these gods' name come out of our mouth? Aren't we told that? Why? Because it invokes them. Does anyone understand fully what this is? No. No, we don't fully understand. Because we wasn't there. And we don't perceive it. I mean, how many of y'all have seen any of these disembodied spirits or demons or fallen angels? We have indirect knowledge and experience, right? Well, we have knowledge based upon our experience but it's indirect. We never saw them with our eyes, right? But you got to remember too that in the West, what you see carries more weight in law. But there are other parts of the world where it doesn't. Okay? Where it doesn't. Don't bring another power before my face, the first commandment. But yet, your religious leaders, the Catholic Church, the public school system, the Judeo-Christian legal system, the Democrats and the Republicans, they got these so-called Christians. They at the top, they know this information, but they got you speaking the names of these deities. Knowing, according to their doctrine, it's a violation of the law. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Well, to keep you in the curses. Keep you in the curses. And why else? To curse you without you knowing it. To use nature and natural law against you. What? Linguistics. Right? Linguistics is natural phenomenon. Man didn't make up language. That's BS. Man was endowed with language. Think about it. The first Hermetic law is mind. All is mind. Without language, there's no thought. Period. All right? Period. We now, I think, begin to keen. In what sense this November or ninth god, Berith, this Phillip or horseman, and Bethsaida, the house or station of the hunter, gets the name in common with others of the evangelist. Philip is identified as an evangelist. Okay, Acts chapter 21, verse 8, quote unquote, the house of Philip, the evangelist. An evangelist meaning, quote unquote, a preacher of the gospel. And to preach the gospel meaning to do what no man on earth ever did or could do, what none but the 12 apostles, that is, the 12 signs of the Zodiac and the sun, sun, as shining in and through those signs. So here's, let's say, Sagittarius, my hand is the sun. The sun enters into Zodiac and is shining. This is Sagittarius. This is the sun. So the sun enters into Sagittarius and shines in it and passes on through. It enters in at 30 degrees, stays in there for 30 days or 30 degrees, and then it exits at 33 degrees. Okay? So hence, Christ begins his ministry, Jesus begins his ministry at 30 years old, and it finishes at 33. Okay? Where are we? Okay. Let me find my place, y'all. Okay, so the 12 signs of the Zodiac and the sun as shining in and through those signs could do, that is, or which means, as Christ himself has told you what it is. Luke chapter 4, verse 19, quote unquote, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord, capital Lord. That is, or which means to indicate time. To indicate time. In other words, to tell you what time it is. So you know what time it is. And to regulate and point out the beginnings and ends of the months and seasons of the year. See, that said nothing about religion. That said nothing about gods. That's so you know what time it is. Now y'all know more fully why we say, I know what time it is. Right? The heavenly bodies, the stars, are for times and seasons. Hey, there's no devils and demons, and all of that stuff is to keep you out of your mind, to keep you disconnected from nature, so that you won't know what time it is. And if you don't know what time it is, that means you are what? Getting hustled. Easy to hustle. It means you're stupid, a fool. You get played easily. You're a chump, a wuss, a B-yard. I ain't gonna finish it. So if you want to know what time it is, you better get down with nature. Harmonize yourself with nature. Follow the Most High's commandments. Return to the ways of your ancient foremothers and forefathers, so that it may go well with you in the land, on the earth plane that the Most High is giving you. Huh? It's very simple, right? Very, very, very simple. It's the same story, just told in different ways. Let me say it again. Quote unquote, to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. That is, which means to indicate time, to tell you what time it is, to make you aware of what time it is. Winter, summer, spring, fall. What should you be doing in each season? And to regulate, to manage, and point out the beginnings and ends of the months. Right? So now you can plan. Some of y'all be out here plotting and planning. And seasons of the year. These then are the only preachers of the gospel. These then are the only preachers of the gospels. The natural lights of the world. Yes, y'all. Yes. The constellations we call the Zodiacs are the only preachers of the Gospels. They're out here shining light on the world. Every day, all day. With no beginning and no end. These zodiac signs, these constellations, these stars situated around the Mazarah are the only preachers of the gospel, the natural lights of the world, whose houses or celestial mansions are in the quote-unquote city set upon a hill, which quote-unquote cannot be hid. All you gotta do is look up. Can't hide the starry canopy, the starry heavens, can't hide it. Where they are set, quote unquote, where they are set for signs and for seasons, and for days and for years, and from the study of which we learn the quote-unquote word of the Lord. I don't have to say anything else about that. There's nothing else I can say or add to that. Okay? They alone are the believers in Christ who, quote unquote, where he is, there are they also. Remember the Maserat? This is the Maserat. Okay? So where the sun is, where the S-O-U-N is, the constellations are also the Maserat. Y'all see it? They alone are the believers who, quote unquote, having everlasting life. There's no end to them. They alone, quote unquote, cast out devils. That is the Diaboloi. Yes, that's right. Diaboloi. Diabloloi. That is the Diaboloi, or signs which are adverse to them. Cast out devils, cast out signs that are adverse to them. They alone speak the same science in all languages of the earth. See, not a religious doctrine. Science, physics, etc., and whatever else that we don't know about. Astrophysics, whatever else we don't know about, right? They alone drink deadly poison. Uh-oh. They alone, quote unquote, drink deadly poisons. Absorb, which means, let me throw that in there, which means absorb the putrid exhalations of the earth. All the pollution, burning, the burning of biological material, all the smoke and pollution, the fuels that burn, other types of emissions into the atmosphere, okay? Absorb the putrid exhalations of the earth and are unheard. Oh, wow. So all that pollution that's produced through man's activities, war, industry, just living, goes where up? Goes up into the atmosphere. It's poison, but it does not affect the celestial bodies. Does not affect the constellations. So what? They can drink deadly poison and not be harmed. Y'all got it? They alone, in annual succession, once a year, appear as, quote unquote, in Christ, when Christ is in them. Y'all see that? Christ enters into the constellation and exits out. Goes into the next zodiac sign and exits out. They alone are so essentially homogene with him. Absolutely. This process never ends. The SUN sun traveling through the Maserat never ends. In one zodiac, through it, and exits out, and then into the next one, passes through it, and exits out. Never ends. Okay? Quote unquote. In Christ, when Christ is in them. They alone are so essentially homogene, one with him. That is, the zodiac signs are one with the SUN sun. That the effects ascribed to him, that is the S-U-N Son, are equally ascribed to them. So, sorry, you Christians, you are not one with Christ, and Christ is one with you. Christ never lived, never breathed, never took one foot, never spoke one word on planet Earth. Not the historical Jesus. All of this is celestial. And y'all see how the celestial solution is perfect. There is no mystery in the celestial solution. But there's all kind of mystery and contradiction in your doctrines. Especially, how are you going to be in Christ, one with Christ, and Christ in you? That means y'all equal. But yet Christ said you will do greater, his believers, his followers would do greater works than he. That means y'all not equal. Because you're doing greater than he did. But anyway, y'all can argue that. It's not for me to argue it. It's not for me to argue or debate that. You can look at it however you want to look at it. What I'm interested in is sparking your mind to think, sparking you to engage in critical thinking, to become aware of this information and to begin to think about it, okay? That's all I'm interested in doing. Quote unquote, the works which he doeth do, the works which the Son, the S-U-N Son, does, they do also. The stars that make up each zodiac sign, they do the same work as the sun. And greater works than these do they, because he goeth to his Father. He proceeds from sign to sign. The S-U-N Son goes from one zodiac sign to the next zodiac sign by an attraction which keeps him within the range of our solar system. All right, the sun never goes outside of our solar system. There are some forces that keeps the sun in its position, no matter where. Okay, no matter where it's at in its annual journey, it stays in that position. It doesn't go out of it. Okay. They are distinctive suns. Okay, so each constellation are made up of individual suns, S-U-N suns, or individual stars, to systems of their own. S-U-N suns brighter than ours, producing more glorious objects of creation. In other words, there are other worlds with beings that are more glorious than us, and lighting up happier worlds through the gallery of immeasurable space. Now, what you think about that, that's on you. I'm really nothing for me to say about that, whether life exists in other realms. Okay? But I have another Phillip for you, which will leave the astronomical identity of this believer in Christ beyond all ambiguity. Okay, y'all, this is going to be the final nail in the coffin. This is the big one. This is the big one. Your last scriptural Phillip is found in Acts chapter 9, verse 26, where the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, quote unquote, arise and go toward the south. Arise and go toward the south. Y'all already know where this is going. Unto the way that goeth down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, G-A-Z-A, which is desert. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let the author speak. Why, look ye, sirs, these are the very relations of the Phillip, the horseman. These are the very relations of Phillip the horseman. These are the very relations of the zodiac sign called Sagittarius. He is literally, Sagittarius is literally, Phillip the horseman is literally, quote unquote, going toward the south. March 21, 22, the vernal equinox. September 21, 22, the fall or autumn equinox. Okay? The summer solstice, June 21, 22, the winter solstice, December 21, 22. So from the vernal equinox, let me start here. From the winter equinox, the sun changes direction and it starts to move north. It begins to spring up northwardly or northerly. It arrives at the spring equinox. It continues to ascend until it reaches its highest point in the northern part of space, which is the summer solstice, June 21, 22. Now, around June 24, 25, the sun begins to fall southerly. Fall southerly. It's going down, it's falling down until it gets to the fall equinox, the autumn equinox. And it continues to fall southerly. So remember, below the celestial equator, which is this line here, these are the winter months. This is hell. This is hell. This is earth, earthly, below the celestial equator. What's above the celestial equator? Above the celestial equator, this is heavenly Jerusalem. Those constellations that are above the celestial equator where the sun dominates, meaning that the number of daylight hours are greater than the number of nighttime hours. And below the celestial equator are those zodiac signs in those months of the year where nighttime dominates. The number of nighttime hours are greater than the number of daylight hours. Y'all see it? Everybody see that? So let's do that again. Now that we've gone through that. Why, look ye, sirs, these are the very relations of Phillip the horseman of the zodiac. That's Sagittarius. In what? November. He, or Sagittarius, the horseman, Phillip, is literally, quote unquote, going toward the south. Going toward the south. Going toward the winter solstice. Falling southerly toward the winter solstice, where when it gets to the winter solstice, December 21, 22, the sun is no longer falling southward. It stops falling southward. And then, in fact, it's not even casting a shadow on the sundial for a full 3 days. And then exactly at 12 midnight, the very beginning of December 25th, the very end of December 24th, the sun casts a full 1 degree shadow on the sundial, and it is now moving northward or northerly. It is springing northerly. Y'all see it? He is literally, quote unquote, going toward the south, going toward the winter solstice. He is going down. Sagittarius is going down from Jerusalem, as almost the whole body of the constellation falls below the Tropic of Capricornus. The Tropic of Capricornus is where? The winter solstice, 23.5 degrees south. Again, almost the whole body of Sagittarius falls below the Tropic of Capricornus. The Tropic of Capricornus is in the south, 23.5 degrees south. The goat, his head alone being within the zodiac. Y'all got that? So Capricorn is the half goat, half fish zodiac sign. So the goat, his head alone being within the zodiac. And he goes into Gaza, and Gaza is the Hebrew word for a goat. And quote unquote, Gaza, let me go back to that. Yes, and Gaza, let me go back to that. The author has here capital G, capital A, capital Z, capital A. Gaza, all capitalized, is the Hebrew word for a goat. And Gaza, quote unquote, Gaza, capital G, lowercase a, lowercase z, which is desert. Now, what can we say about this? Now, in Ancient Ibaryath, there is no uppercase and there is no lowercase. Y'all got that? There's no uppercase and there's no lowercase. Just like with the word God, there is no uppercase G, lowercase o, lowercase d. There is no lowercase g, lowercase o. There is no upper and lowercase in Ancient Ibaryath. So they're playing mind games with you. They're playing mind games with you with upper and lowercase letters. They are non-existent in Ancient Ibaryath. Huh? So let's go through it again. Gaza is the Hebrew word for a goat, all capitalized. And Gaza, capital G, everything else lowercase, which is desert, or which means desert, is none other than a definition of the unfruitful and desolate December. Yeah, when you go to the, let's say Alaska, or you go to a place where it's just snow, no vegetation. Everything is frozen, a frozen tundra, no vegetation. Well, it's desolate. It's just like a desert, only it's snow. No vegetation growing there. It's a desert, a desolate waste. What can you do there? You can't survive there. No vegetation. Well, unless you can get some fish, you can survive. But the point is, there's no vegetation. It's desolate. And he preached to the Enoch. And Enoch literally signifying, quote unquote, a fine night. F-I-N-E, a fine night. N-I-G-H-T. The fine and frosty nights of the beginning of winter. And he preached to an Enoch. And Enoch literally signifying, literally meaning, literally signaling a quote-unquote fine night. The fine, or which means fine and frosty nights of the beginning of winter. Yes, November comes before December. Being the most convenient for astronomical observations. Absolutely. Absolutely. A clear, chilly night. Yeah, you get your telescope, you look up in the sky in December. All right. Okay, let me check the time again. All right, I'm still good to go. In quote unquote, in Enoch under Candace, queen of the Egyptians, of the Ethiopians rather. the most beautiful figure of language that could be conceived for a fine night. The silver moon, pale regent of the dark ones, being under or set. All right? And he preached not of the triumphs of the sun sun in the summer, but of his humiliation. He preached of the sun's humiliation, the sun's humiliation, after his having descended, after the sun descends, falls below the scales of September, after the sun falls below Libra. Y'all see that? This is the celestial equator. All right, the sun. Okay, so Christ, the sun gets crucified, falls below the celestial equator. Christ gets crucified. Mary is standing here next to Christ in the Catholic Christian paintings, iconography. Also, Michael the Archangel is standing just below the fall equinoctial point. Michael the Archangel is there. Christ is crucified, meaning the sun falls below the celestial equator. And then Michael the Archangel, which is St. Andrew, accompanies Christ, accompanies the sun, takes the sun down to hell. The winter solstice. Okay? And he preached not the triumphs of the sun in summer, but of the sun's humiliation after having descended below the scales of September, that's Libra, and therefore having come unto the neighborhood of Phillip. Those constellations, what? Those constellations underneath the celestial equator, those earth constellations or earthly constellations. Neighborhood of Phillip is what? November, Sagittarius. Sagittarius. Half man, half horse. Okay? Having come into the neighborhood of St. Philip. In the sun's humiliation, he says, quote unquote, his judgment was taken away. In his humiliation, he says, his judgment was taken away. That is, which means when the sun comes to the equator at the autumnal foot, where's that? Here, the autumn equinox, the foot of it, okay? The exiting gate, the sun is leaving heavenly Jerusalem, right? That city on a hill, the royal ark. His judgment was taken away. That is, when the sun comes to the equator at the autumnal foot of the celestial ark. He is in Libra, which is the scales of September, the house of judgment. Why? The two scales. The two scales. The house of judgment. The two scales, right? And his effulgence, that means the shine, the sun's shine, its glory, its shine, of course, renders the stars, which constitute the house of judgment, invisible. So the sun comes into the scales of justice, and because the sun is so bright, its shine is so bright, it drowns out those stars that constitute or make up the constellation called Libra, which is the scale of justice. You can't see those stars anymore because the sunlight, the light from the sun is too bright. You cannot see them. But when the sun leaves Libra, when the sun leaves, exits out of the scales of justice, well, you can see those stars again. All right? And thus, quote unquote, in the SUN son's humiliation, his judgment is taken away. But mark ye still, Phillip, with his fine knight, rides as they preach. Who's preaching? The 12 apostles, the 12 zodiac signs. Remember, these are the true preachers of the gospel. Page 311. These then are the only preachers of the gospels, the natural lights of the world, the zodiac signs. Okay, back to page 313. Let me check the time. Eternal God, writes the author. And if here isn't the coach they ride in. Y'all know the sun is depicted, if my memory serves me correctly, as being in a chariot and pulled by 4 horses. Eternal God, and if here isn't the coach they ride in. Charles Wayne, the great northern bear, on which, with your own eyes and every night of your lives, you may see the whole heavens riding round in royal pomp and proclaiming in one and the self-same demonstration the everlasting truth of science and the utter falsehood of the gospel. They ain't history, not even close. But how far did the gentle folks ride in continuation of their discourse upon the humiliation of Christ? Remember, the sun is falling, it's being humiliated. There's nothing the sun can do about it because it's falling according to natural law, forces that keep it in place, right? So darkness is dominating the sun. Do y'all get it? Why? Through the whole remaining winter season, they traveled all through Gaza. Remember, Gaza is simply mean desert, a desolate place, sand, snow, which is desert. Gaza, which is desert. That is the goat. December is Capricorn, the goat fish, the hybrid, which is the constellation of the barren and frosty December. Now, you go outside and tell me what's growing. What vegetation is growing in December and it's full of snow and it's frozen? Till they come into Aquarius, the constellation of January, which establishes the faith of the quote-unquote fair night, which establishes the faith of the fair night. This is in January, which is Aquarius, that the SUN sun is reascending. Yes, the sun changed directions at the beginning of December 25th, and it is springing northward. It is reascending. It is springing northward. It is ascending. It changed directions, no longer falling south, but springing northward, ascending. He cries out, the sun cries out, quote unquote, see, here is water. What doeth hinder me to be baptized? Baptized he is, Aquarius the water bearer. So here's what the footnote reads. The footnote on page 313. And here, sirs, could you entertain a doubt, if you were to try to do so, that with your definitions established your controversy, Gaza, which is desert, Gaza being the Hebrew word for goat, the goat being the sign of the sun, the SUN sun, the sign which the SUN sun enters when the earth is shut up in the deepest winter, when indeed it is a desert, a snowy desert. And the name Samson, Shimshin in the biblical Hebrew, when indeed it is desert. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. And the name Samson, Shimshon, literally signifying the S-U-N, sun. That Samson carrying away the gates of Gaza, remember, the gate entering into that heavenly city and the gate exiting that heavenly city, okay? Samson carrying away the gates of Gaza and bearing them on his shoulders up the hill. The sun falling below the celestial equator, going to the winter equinox, changing directions, springing, ascending northward. Shimshon literally means sun. Okay, y'all get it? And what is Samson doing? He is what? And bearing them, the gates, on his shoulders up the hill of Hebron, ascending northward. Never meant anything else than the S-U-N sun dashing his mighty way out of his wintry prison and bearing the nature which he had borne in December up the hill. The sun changes direction from falling southerly. It changes direction and now begins to spring, to ascend northerly. Up the hill which the S-U-N sun climbs in his annual course through the Zodiac. And that Christ rising from his tomb, and that Christ resurrecting from his tomb is another version of this story about Samson, right? Carrying the gates. But not so good. So the Christ story of rising from his tomb is not as good a story of the same astronomical allegory. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna have to stop it there. Thanks everyone for buying my books. If you're gonna buy my books, those of you who have not, but you're entertaining the idea, go to zionlawschool.org. My books are listed. You can find links to my books in the description area of the video. Everybody's welcome to come. You don't have to pay anything to Saturday class, 506 The Curses course, from 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay, that's when we start. And then thanks to, for those of you who have subscribed to the 101 Ancient Ibaryath course, y'all go subscribe to that course, okay? 101 Ancient Ibaryath, this like $10 a month, and you're gonna get a great education. You're going to get a great education. There's no comparison of what you pay for it. That $10 a month is nothing compared to what you get. And $10 is, it's nothing anyway. And also a special thanks for everyone who's supporting the project, my project to write the Book of the Law in Ancient Ibaryath and Modern English to restore the astronomy and astrology and the Hermetic laws and the constitutional principles into the Book of the Law, and to remove all of the intentional deceit and errors. Remove all of the Jeremiah 8:8 stuff. Islam to all the Moors. Thanks for spending your time with me. I'm Dr. Yasapa from Zion Law School. Shalom.